Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare. I did ayahuasca recently and it is all done in the dark. All my visions and hallucinations were internal. Hard to describe, but they were all inside my brain. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. Blind people of Reddit who have done acid, what did you see? Number 1. Here's a great from this article about a blind 70-year-old former rock musician's experience with acid. I never had any visual images come to me. I can't see or imagine what light or dark might look like. Mr. Blue Pentagon told the researchers. But under the influence of LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, also known as acid, sounds felt unique and listening to music felt like being immersed in a waterfall, he said. The music of Bach's Third Brandenburg Concerto brought on the waterfall effect. I could hear violins playing in my soul and found myself having a 1-hour-long monologue using different tones of voices. LSD gave everything height. The sounds coming from songs I would normally listen to became three-dimensional, deep and delayed. Number 2. I'm legally blind, colorblind, photosensitive, and I have nystagmus. I've done shrooms and everything turned neon orange and purple for a bit at one time. I can say that doing shrooms definitely helps me see color more, which is nice since everything seems very muted for me most of the time, but probably not the colors I should be seeing. Salvia was a effing nightmare, but not because of the visuals. The visuals were awesome. Childhood kaleidoscope toys IRL, anyone? But no one ever told me I shouldn't try to move while under the influence of salvia. Good thing you can't really move, or I'm pretty sure I would have broken something flip-flopping around trying to figure out why I couldn't really move or stand up. I was legit scared the first time because I thought I had seriously effed myself up. Also, that shit smells horrible. I never knew a plant could smell so much like rotten garbage and feet. FYI, most blind people can still see. Truly blind people are super duper rare, and it's usually not something that has happened since birth. All of my conditions have been there since birth. I have no idea what normal vision is like. Number 3. I enjoy telling this story, but it's a bit lengthy for a comment. Here I go anyway. My first time trying it, I was with a buddy. I opted to go first and began to feel like I was an insignificant mechanism in this giant machine, which seems to be a theme for a lot of people's salvia trips, or feeling like an inanimate object, which, the second time I tried it, I felt I became part of the ceiling fan above me. There were many parts like me, we were all the same and none of us had any control over being a part of this machine. I then started to feel like I was being squished, slowly climbing out of this inflatable tube. Looking back, I guess it would be similar to being pushed out a birth canal, and as I came to and my vision slowly came out of the tunnel, Stephen Colbert was on the TV looking right at me saying, "And that is why I'm wearing blue pants today." It seemed like the most profound thing ever for a second. My buddy who was on the couch next to me said I kept flailing and swinging my arms around and hitting him, presumably when I was coming out of the tube. He puts in headphones to take his turn. Moments later, his roommate comes downstairs and tries to talk to him. I explained to his roommate what was going on, but then my buddy turns and looks at him. He tries to get up and start walking around, headphones in, the phone they're connected to now on the ground, and we were both like, "Just sit down man," and he looks at us and says, "I can't sit down because my head is the floor." Number 4. Back in the 80s while selling tie-dyed shirts at a Dead concert, while this sounds cliche, some guys parked their blind friend next to us because we weren't going anywhere, I guess. His name was Charlie and he was 20, blind since birth, studying history in college, and wasn't wearing any pants. I'm a female, as was my friend selling with me. We asked Charlie all kinds of questions. We were sober since we were working. A lot of what he said he was experiencing was heightened sensory feelings. He spent a long time in crab position enjoying kind of sliding his butt along the grass and then his penis. It wasn't sexual, it was tactile. It was pretty hysterical. For a while he would talk about how different songs tasted. We did let him feel our faces and arms and stuff. Of course we tried to describe what we could see, but he had no reference to comprehend it. The closest he came to hallucinating was he would smell things that related to an experience and say he was back at a time when such and such happened. I've been to over 30 Dead shows, but that one was the most memorable because of Charlie. If he's out there or you know him, have him hit me up. Number 5. I did ayahuasca recently and it is all done in the dark. All my visions and hallucinations were internal. Hard to describe, but they were all inside my brain. Half the time I didn't even know if my eyes were open or not. Now I read this question I realize that vision as we know it isn't even vague. necessary to have the full force of a trip. In fact, I doubt my trip would have been much visually different if I was blind. Number 6. In 2014 I became blind in my left eye almost completely. When I took mushrooms recently in 2019, I discovered I could still trip out of the eye. I still see colors and intense visuals. This was pretty shocking. In fact, it made me cry a bunch the first few times I tripped because I for a long time felt like my eye was dead and or useless. Number 7. As a blind person with type 5 blindness, I actually don't see anything, but I sure do feel weird sensations of my skin moving and hear weird sounds. One time my caregiver had dosed me with acid telling me it was aspirin for my headache, and I knew something was wrong when I would hear things I knew weren't there. It's horrible that someone would take advantage of someone blind to slip them drugs, but I guess it's the state of the world. The messed up part is that they told me they fired the caregiver who dosed me, but I have no way of being sure he still isn't around since I only rely on people's voices, but he can very well be watching me in a crowd and not saying anything. I constantly fear for my life now. But yeah, the trip was fun once I knew it wasn't a lethal dose. Number 8. The first time I tried salvia, I could feel the threads of the carpet I was sitting on weaving into my legs and felt trapped. When I eventually stood up, I felt the threads break, but felt like gravity was shifting in different directions and was falling towards different walls and shit. One of my friends tried going out a second-story window, but luckily we had babysitters with us. Number 9. I am legally blind. I can see many, but never any fine details or far away. My trip helped me see finer details because of the colored blurry outline effect things had when they moved. Number 10. I was seeing everything in black and white with an explosion of color. And also the ice around me started lifting at some point. Didn't care much because I was mentally on the moon. Number 11. My buddy Kati was driven up here for Christmas by his brother yesterday. He is congenitally blind from birth. He was born with a type of disease I cannot pronounce or spell. He is a frequent cannabis smoker. When I got up this morning, we had a small breakfast of fruit, and then I removed it from the fridge and explained to him what it was, and the process, and then I had a theory. His visual cortex is completely intact, but he just doesn't have eyes, so he should be able to have a DMT experience. He has never had any true psychedelics before today, as the duration of the experiences put him off from it. My theory was that, never having had the experience of vision, he would not be able to describe what it was that happened, but I would be able to tell if it did based on his reaction. So, I convinced him it was worth the 10 minutes it takes, and convinced him he would benefit from the experience. And if not, hell, it's only 10 minutes. I helped guide him down to my pond. I set up some land chairs as it was in the upper 50s today and sunny. Felt really nice. I loaded the bowl, gave it to him and helped him light it. He took 3 huge rips, holding each in probably 20 seconds. Now Kati usually holds his eyes closed. The only time I've ever seen his eyes was when I first met him. He has to actively try to open them because it's a movement he almost never does. He does not have the muscle memory for it, so it take effort for him. As soon as he let out the last hit, his eyes opened. Not just open, they shot wide open. He leaned onto his knees out of the chair. How he could even move I'm not sure, but he started sobbing. He cried for about 7 minutes. As suspected, he cannot say anything but one word about the experience. All he can say, with sobbing tears, is so beautiful, I don't, it's just so beautiful. This was about 10 hours ago. He's still asking me if that is what seeing is. How do I respond to that? He can't describe what it is he saw, but he saw, and he's been blind from birth. I don't know where I go from here, but we both feel as if we have uncovered something more profound than the experience itself. I just thought I would leave this here as I have no idea the implications of this, and I have no hope of ever getting an explanation of exactly what he experienced for him, as he has no means of comparison or contrast. Also, I wanted to start a discussion about this. It seems very interesting. Number 12. I dropped acid back in high school. I had a good trip, too good in fact. It's hard to describe, but it was like my brain was made of molten lava racing down bobsled trails. Thoughts were fired. I could understand problems all at once. They weren't even problems long enough to be interesting. The fire spread to my bloodstream, and I could feel my heart pumping lava throughout my body. I kept trying to find things to think about, and as I understood them, it was like explosions going off throughout my brain and body. It was an incredible feeling. I tried a bunch of drugs during that period of my life. Mostly, it was an experiment to see what they were like. LSD was the only one that scared me to death. I could easily become addicted to it. I never tried it again. Number 13. Give DMT a go. It's got the kaleidoscope shenanigans, plus, I don't know. Tapping into some otherworldly shit that I never thought I would say existed. Spiritual. It's like being in a dream where you're a kid at the foot of a circus tent. You're standing outside and there is a presence that asks if you want to go in. I mean, you came this far. Say yes, dummy, and when the curtain goes up, it's pictures and pictures of intricate patterns, and always the promise of a peek of something else, something just beyond your glimpse. Mystifying. By far the most psychedelic experience of my life. Number 14. One of my friends has an older brother who was born blind. I was hanging out at their house one night and I asked him what it was like for him to have dreams. Well, he certainly never has any visual dreams, they are all touch and sound. He also said they are really strange and out in the left field. The way he said it kind of spooked me. I could only imagine. Number 15. First time I did it I would say it lasted closer to 10 minutes. And for the first 7 to 8 minutes I had completely shed any notion that I was a human being on the planet Earth and was instead just a weightless consciousness soaring through a vast space of color and shapes. The feeling was incredible. I felt that I knew and understood everything, not that I could have articulated any of it, but I genuinely felt at ease with my place in the cosmos. To imagine that I was meant to be anywhere else would have been impossible. The second and third times were much less vivid, but I did get to meet my spirit animal, which just so happened to be a blue dog/coyote hybrid. He showed up both times and didn't do anything other than sit still staring off in the distance. Though when I tried to put him in my peripheral vision he did appear to start moving like he didn't want me to see him move, which was funny to me. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.